So, you saw it coming. We saw it coming. V3 is out. Let's talk about it. Archer received a little bit of a max HP buff, not that it really matters, and he got his ult cost reduced by 20. But in return, his ult damage got nerfed by 20%, right? His follow-ups got nerfed by, like 15%? And he received an 18% more attack buff from his traces that before were HP. He now gives 2 skill points instead of 1 from trace 1, and he gains 60% more crit damage than he used to from trace 3, where if he has 4 skill points or more, increases crit damage by whatever percent for 1 turn, right? So all of these changes basically just make his Sunday synergy a little better. I do think Sparkle is still his best in slot, because Sparkle can make him do I think 6 attacks in a single turn. Sunday with this change can now make him do 4 with probably better SP generation. Now I don't want to doom post Sparkle, but there is a decent chance that this guy's best sustain team in the future will be Sunday, Saridra, Don Hung. But, you know, it just is what it is, right? I don't know if anyone cares about that. Next, we move on to Saber. For the most part, she just got small buffs here and there. Increases damage dealt by Saber by 60% instead of 40% for 2 turns when any ally target uses an ultimate, and obtains 3 resonance points. Consuming 1 resonance point will regenerate 8 energy for Saber. Used to be 10, so a small nerf there, right? If we go down here, that's just a wording change. I think this is also just a wording change. Yeah, I think that's also just a wording change. Trace 3 now has an additional crit damage buff. When using skill, increases Saber's crit damage by 50% for 2 turns. For each point of core resonance gained, Saber's crit damage increases by 4%, stacking up to 8 times. So you can get up to 82% crit damage from this Trace 3. And then the rest are just Eidolon changes that, to be honest, I don't think most of us care about, right? She also received a base attack buff with worse HP and higher defense. So Saber overall got buffs nearly completely across the board. And yeah, you know, pretty solid in my opinion. Let's move on. This is Silverwolf. After using... Oh, this is E4. I don't care. Oh, the only change for Silverwolf is that her bug now prioritizes elite targets and above whenever the mob that has it is killed. So, yeah, you know, a little bit of QOL. I'm genuinely fucking amazed that this woman hasn't been nerfed yet. I mean, maybe they really do have her in a good spot, but it's like, she's literally better than Cypher outside of follow-up teams. Like, it's kind of crazy that she hasn't gotten nerfed. Jingliu. Okay. When I first saw Jingliu being switched to HP scaling, for those who watch me, I said that the only reason this makes sense is for Hyacine shilling. And I truly believe that, right? And I believe it even more now. So literally the only change Jingliu got was this new addition to her talent. After ally targets receive damage or consume health a total of 20 times, Jingliu gains 1 stack of Sigi. This takes effect a maximum of 1 time per attack received by each target. And you may notice, right, Hyacine's light cone. Hyacine's light cone drains the entire team's HP, which would lead to 4 to 5 stacks instantly of this thing every time Hyacine takes a turn. So, if you want better uptime on Jingliu being in her enhanced state, you want to pull E0S1 Hyacine as her sustain. Cinema, right? Fucking cinema for Jingliu. Next, we have a small buff for, Blade, Trace 2. After Blade receives healing, 25% of the healed amount will be converted to Ultimate's tally of HP lost. Nice, right? Oh, whoops. Sorry for my stuffy nose, by the way. When ally target's effect hit rate is 75% or more, Kafka increases the target's attack by 100%, right? Used to be just a dot dealt damage increase, now it's a 100% attack increase. And this E2 is also pretty nice, while Kafka's on field dot dealt by all allies increases by 33%. So, buff to the E2, buff to the Trace 1, and I believe Trace 3 is just a wording change, right? V3 Fenon, right? He got a base attack nerf and an HP buff. These are all just wording changes. Wording change, right? Okay. He gets 30% more max HP going into his enhanced state. He starts off with 1 extra stack now instead of 0, and running him with a sustain adds 5% more damage bonus than before. And that's it. Right. I don't know why people expected this guy to get massive buffs. If you guys are an avid viewer of mine, you've been seeing the community posts that I put out, and you've as well been on the streams, and you've looked at my personal estimates of how strong Fenon should be with Saridra and Danheng. Him getting buffed always made 0 sense from the beginning. The only people pushing for this guy to get buffed are his actual, fanboys who want him to power creep everybody in the game when he gets his best in slot team, right? Now, here's the harsh reality of Fenon. He is a Rappa. He is an Aglaya, right? This is a character who has a very, very niche kit, and they will then get their future best in slot support to make them last a lot longer and perform a lot more comfortably and optimally. This is a Zhao Q Acheron situation. I've been saying it since the beginning of this guy's V1. He reminds me way too much of Acheron, right? He will get massively elevated. Like, I'm talking probably Acheron Zhao Q levels. He will get massively elevated performance by Saridra, and that will be, the support for Fenon that probably puts him above Casterus and Herta, even in their best in slot teams, right? This isn't even cope, so long as there isn't anything in Saridra's kit that literally says doesn't work with Fenon. She should straight up just give this guy double the turns and make his normal rotations even smoother. And she apparently has a 1-turn ult buff that is really fucking massive according to the leakers, which I didn't even include in my own estimates of how strong he could possibly be over Casterus and Herta. So yes, this is very much looking like a premium team unit. You can hate it, you can love it. This is incredibly common by Hoyo, and I don't know why people want this guy to get the special treatment, right? So, those are my thoughts on Fenon. You know what? Just for a little additional bonus on this video, let me go to my notepad. I'll fast forward this video to when I open my notepad of the estimations I made for Fenon's damage with a single ult with Sunday and Saridra 2 versions ago. So this is what I had 2 versions ago. This is Fenon, Sunday, Saridra, Danheng, E0S1 in 1 ult cycle. We have the rotation here. These numbers stand for the stacks being gained, and over here is the skill points being consumed. And if Saridra does give Fenon double the turns in ult, and as well the extra turns for rotation, this will lead to him being able in 1 ult cycle to, at minimum, keep in mind, depending on counter lineups, if there are enough enemies on field, this meteor number would be much, much higher, right? Especially if you're putting him in somewhere in pure fiction. In pure fiction, he can meteor legit every other turn. So this would turn into like 7 or 8 meteors with a Fenon in pure fiction, right? So we got 6 meteors, 8 basics, finisher. E2S1 with Saridra should be 8 meteors, 12 basics. Get stacks for being targeted. You guys should also remember this. I understand people get mad at this guy. They're like, oh, Acheron gets her stacks, right? Acheron gets her stacks. She starts off with way more stacks than Fenon, without keeping in mind that this guy literally just gets stacks for being targeted. And if you use, you know, like a Sunday ult, that legit gives, I believe, like 2 or 3 stacks, right? Like, I don't really understand why, you know, people are going crazy, right? Like, Acheron supports at max can always give 1 stack, right? They might be able to give multiple instances of it, like Jiaoqiu with enemies moving, but that is basically the equivalent of what Fenon has in his base kit for when he gets targeted. That is why he does not have like Acheron's thing, where he starts off with like half the stacks for ult, right? It would be incredibly fucking broken. He'd be able to get nearly all his ult turns off in a single cycle, not even including the other supports then AAing him, and him being able to get a second ult off as well. Like, it would just be too much, right? At least in my opinion. So I calculated this using someone who ran sustain Fenon with Huohuo and E0 Sparkle, so it's a pretty shit estimate in all honesty. So keep in mind, these estimates are very, very hard low balls, especially after the recent leaks we got for Saridra. So the final numbers I got were 4.8 to 5.4 million in meteors, 1.6 for basics, and 600k for finisher, and then the 4 skills outside of ult around 250k. I did a plus 30%, you know, multiplier for the final damage output because of SP Don Hung's Sunday synergy. For those who don't know, SP Don Hung can put a dragon summon on allies on the team, and Sunday gives 50% more damage bonus towards the person he targets if they have a summon on them. So this doesn't even include, you know, maybe Don Hung has a light cone with vulnerability like Hyacine. This doesn't include Don Hung's own damage. This doesn't include whatever buffs Don Hung may be able to give. This doesn't include Saridra's ult buff, all of that shit, right? 10 million damage in an E0S1 best in slot sustain team for a Fenon with Saridra Don Hung, right? This is nearly enough to wipe out both sides of the current MOC. Not 1, 2, both sides with a single ult, right? He does not need a buff. If they plan to actually make Saridra give him extra turns in ult, and she has like this 1 turn ult buff, he will be stronger than Castris and Herda. Like, I am saying this, you know, like, right, a lot of people think I'm just shitting on this guy. I want him to be weak. No, this is a premium team unit, unlike Castris and Herda, who are able to be ran free to play easier and are, you know, really strong still with best in slot supports. Fenon should be an Acheron in a way, right? This character with free to play supports is much worse than the character with premium ones. And in return, the elevation in performance from these niche supports made for him will likely put him a noticeable chunk above even Castris and Herda in their best in slot teams, right? There's always a caveat to this stuff, right? So that's just my opinion on Fenon's current state. I mean, it's the same opinion I've had for the last 2 versions, and very clearly it's the same fucking opinion that Hoyo has. This guy doesn't really need all that much of a buff because he is going to get the buff from Saridra and Don Hung. I know some of you may hate it. I fully understand that. But this is just the way Hoyo went with Fenon. His full best in slot team almost guaranteed will be stronger than Castris and Herda, but it's gonna be expensive as shit, right? I'm not justifying it. I also wish he could have better free-to-play performance, but I know after seeing the recent Cerebro leaks, he's gonna fucking shit on the endgame content if he gets a base multipliers buff overall and then also gets Cerebro, right? Love you all. Hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great night. That's all the changes we had for today. Archer looking amazing. Sunday Synergy looks a little better. Saber, she got overall buffs for the most part, so not too bad there. Fenon, I already went through Fenon. I'm not going to go over it again. Kafka got a little bit more buffed as a supportive role for these Doc characters, most likely Heislands. Blade got a small change. Silverwolf also only got a small change. And Jingliu basically just got something added to her talent to shill Hyacinth more. That's basically it, right? Love y'all. Hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great night. Peace out.